okay, you're a leader. You're a great leader, but how do you get your team to work together? How do you get them to be cohesive and committed? How do you get them to be positive and united? How do you make sure that pessimism doesn't seep in to the organization, into the mindset, into the culture? How do you make sure that the negativity is not seeping and growing? How do you make sure you have difficult conversations along the way to address the issues and the elephants in the room?
It's exciting to see. It's exciting to have conversations about life, sustainability, legacy, and not just talking about financing all the time.
Don talks about really a commitment to leadership. I think that's the distinctive part that makes it so powerful.
I've achieved the American dream, and I'm committed to helping others do the same. Well, I have a special guest today. I have Jon Gordon himself here joining with us. And Jon, you may be tired of me by now, as I was on your podcast a week or two ago. I got to see you at our Building an Extraordinary Family event just last week, where you not only gave a phenomenal keynote, but a great workshop with kids that I spent a good hour talking with my kids about. I also just got done reading the book reports for Energy Bus for Teens that both of my kids just finished reading. So you've been in my life, in my business, at our events, in my home life, quite a bit these last few weeks, but couldn't be more excited to have you on the podcast here with us today. So welcome.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, it was really great speaking at your event. Loved what you put together. I mean, you were talking about building an extraordinary family for all of your partners, your clientele, the people that you work with, your colleagues. It was really special. And then to actually do that, and then to actually do a kids event, a kids workshop, when I haven't spoke to like 8 or 9-year-olds in years, but I was going back to my teaching days and teaching them about positivity, the positive dog. I taught them about the coffee bean. I taught them about, the importance of feeding the positive every day. And they got it. Like, they really got it. And I would share things over and over again and make them share things back. So I knew it would stick with them. And so, yeah, a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I am so grateful to have you on here today. And I know, you have it on your shirt if anybody's watching, but the Energy Bus, which is, how I've known of you for, I don't know how many years now, 15 years now, since we first read the Energy Bus as a company. But as we look over behind your head, you see all the different books you've published. I mean, it is remarkable and amazing what you've accomplished. So for anybody who's not as familiar with Jon Gordon, or the few people listening maybe don't know who you are, give us a little overview. What's your background and what you do?
Well, I go to a lot of places that they haven't read the Energy Bus or any of my books. So it's actually a really good, humbling experience, because you go there and you realize it's a great opportunity to share the work you're doing. And you've been doing it a long
Yeah.
time. So you actually have a lot more power and insight into what you're sharing than when you shared it 15 years ago. And so I've written now 30 books,
Wow.
17 bestsellers. Wasn't always a bestseller. The Energy Bus was rejected by over 30 publishers before it was finally
Wow.
picked up. And then bookstores wouldn't even carry it. It took 5 years for it to be a bestseller. And then now it's a perennial bestseller, making the list every single year, even to this day, 17 years later. So I love writing, love speaking, get to work with a lot of great companies and organizations like yours, as well as sports teams. I was just with the Colorado Rockies. They were 0-2 while I was there, though, so that wasn't fun, but it was great to be with them. Dave Roberts was there playing. The Dodgers were playing the Rockies. So it was really cool. I got
Wow.
a chance to go see Dave in the clubhouse before the game. Clint Hurdle and I, Clint's an advisor to the Rockies. He was the manager for the Pirates. He's a legend as well. So we just sat there, 3 guys, just talking about leadership, talking about culture, talking about what works, what doesn't. It's like you're really getting into the laboratory when you just start having those conversations with leaders of sports in real time like that. And so love doing that. Love working with high level leaders like yourself, and just having the conversations about what makes great companies great cultures great. And by the way, your book is what I am actually reading now, Building an Elite Organization. So I'm actually
Oh,
reading,
awesome.
that book right now, because my company's growing. We're doing certification. We become a really established training company now. It used to just be me speaking and writing. That was easy. Now I'm literally growing, and I'm going, I've got to build an elite organization, and I've got to take the next step in my own leadership. I mean, I wrote The Power of Positive Leadership. I know what great leaders do, but there's also
Yeah.
the nuances and the practical things
Yeah.
and the little things you do every day in terms of scalability, in terms of internal communication, in terms of marketing, working with operations, and working with the back end systems of technology. All that is not in my book, right? So now you have to read
Yep.
other books to learn that.
That's awesome. Really, really cool. So you speak, and I know we've had the conversation of the incredible sports teams and head coaches and you've been a part of, as well as Fortune 500 companies and fast growing entrepreneurial organizations and such, and across spectrum. So when you deal with teams of all different scopes, what do you think is the most common message they need to hear? What's the greatest wisdom that you feel in general? You don't know anything beyond that. They're a great team. They want to be successful. And like, what's the biggest message you feel that most commonly we need to
I
hear?
love talking about the power of a positive team. It's one of my books, and it's the principles and
Yeah.
practices that make great teams great. Okay, you're a leader. You're a great leader, but how do you get your team to work together? How do you get them to be cohesive and committed? How do you get them to be positive and united? How do you make sure that pessimism doesn't seep in to the organization, into the mindset, into the culture? How do you make sure that the negativity is not seeping and growing? How do you make sure you have difficult conversations along the way to address the issues and the elephants in the room? So this work really spells out these principles and practices. It starts with culture, building it together. We move towards having a shared vision and mission. Every great team knows where they're going and why they're going there. Every great team stays positive and optimistic. So we know we're going to face challenges and adversity,
Yeah.
but how do we stay positive along the way? Working with Snapchat and Evan Spiegel when he was, just starting out for a few years, they were doing really well, and then all of a sudden they hit a slide. That's when he called me, when they hit the slide. I usually get the call not when we're doing great, but when they're hitting the slide. And he had just read The Power of Positive Leadership. It just came out, and I went there and we didn't discuss rocket science, even though these were some of the smartest guys in the world. We discussed optimism, belief, and not allowing pessimism to destroy their company. And it turned them around. He will admit, and he was on my podcast, he said positivity was a game changer for their organization, their company. And that's why I say it's a competitive advantage. And so you got to make sure your team is staying positive. And I talk about it being real positive, not fake positive,
Yeah.
not Pollyanna. We're talking resilience and mental toughness. That is key. And then it's not just a state of mind as a team, it's a state of action. What are we doing to become a great team? And that's where we build great relationships. And as a leader and as a team, you got to foster those day in and day out to create the connection. If you had to pick what are the three things that are most important, it would be optimism, belief, connection, and commitment. So how can I get you to be a more connected team so you will become a more committed team? Because the more connected you are, the more committed you will be.
So I would say, if for those who know a little bit about you, positive thinking would probably be what a lot of people would associate you with, right? And that's, kind of what the Energy Bus is in a lot of ways. And I haven't read all your books. I've read a handful of them. And I would say that's a common theme. But your newest book, which I have not yet read, is called Difficult Conversations. And I would think of difficult conversations, many would think of that as the opposite of positive energy thinking. We're having to deal with the negative, deliver tough messages people don't want to hear, have those challenging but important conversations. Talk to us a little about the most recent book. What's it about? What's the key takeaway for those who haven't yet read it, to pique our interest to do so?
Well, I would say that it is actually very positive. People often think
Okay.
that you have to choose between positivity and winning, positivity and succeeding, but actually positivity leads to winning. It doesn't mean that you don't address problems. You address problems and you address the wrongs to make things right. And also, positive leaders are very demanding. They're very demanding and they are tough. They're just not demeaning. So when we talk about great leadership, it's love and accountability as a great leader. So I'm going to love you up, as Alan Mullally said when he turned around Ford and they were losing $14 billion. Alan's a good friend of mine. He said, I'm going to love you up, but I'm going to hold you accountable to our culture, to our values, to our principles, and to our standards. And a great leader does that. So we have to have difficult conversations at time along the way as a team to not allow negativity to persist and exist and eventually sabotage the team. See, too often as leaders and teams, we allow the negativity to exist. We allow the issue to go unaddressed. And as a result, it will eventually sabotage our team and morale. I talk about you have to be aware of energy vampires and elephants. You have to address both. The energy vampires will suck the life out of your team. And those elephants are the issues that go unaddressed. And you got to make sure you're dealing with the elephants. So how do we do that? Like, how do we have difficult conversations? Well, the book is a framework and a model for doing that, because we don't have those conversations because we're often scared of the conflict to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And we're scared of what could go wrong. And also, we don't like confrontation. So we don't address it. So we stay surface level, and we actually never get true intimacy and true buy-in and true connection and true commitment because we're not willing to have those hard conversations. On the other side, so often we have them, we don't know how to have them, and we wind up ruining the team, and everybody starts arguing. So the model is this. It's the STAR 3 model, and this is really gold. S is small ego, big mission. So we have to remember it's about the mission, not my own personal ego. It's about the team. It's about we, not me. So small ego, big mission going into these conversations. The T in STAR 3 is tell the truth. We got to tell the truth, but we do so in love. We do so hoping to make things better and make people better, but we tell the truth. Everyone has to expect the truth and tell the truth. A is assume positive intent. So going into these meetings, I have to assume that you're bringing this intent that's really about making me better and the team better. We all have to assume positive intent in each other. And you really need trust for that. So you have to do a lot of the work in the power of a positive team to get to that point in terms of building trust. It doesn't happen automatically, but you have to have the assumption of positive intent. And let me ask you this, Don, if you knew someone had your best interest at heart, would you be more open to their feedback? Of course you would. So you have to make sure that the people you lead and your teammates know that you have their best interests at heart, and they will be more open to your feedback. So it's assume positive intent. And then there's R3, which means 3 R's. There's respect. We respect each other in these conversations.
Yep.
We have relationship as the other R. Let's remember, we shouldn't allow these conversations to ruin our relationships. Even in really philosophical or political conversations where you can really ruin the relationship, let's always remember that, you know what, our relationship is more important. And we may disagree. And I may think that your idea is trash, but you're not. You're not. I'm going to still value you. I'm going to respect you. And the relationship is still important to me, even though we can debate and disagree. I have a good friend, Paulo. Paulo's a very successful person. He's a billionaire. And Paulo and I argue all the time. And I'll tell you what, I will not kiss Paulo's butt. I will give it to Paulo. He will debate. We will argue. He loves to try to push my buttons. We disagree on everything, but we are still friends. So we maintain the relationship. And then that last R is rules of engagement. So every team, when you have these difficult conversations, you write down going into these conversations, all right, what are our rules of engagement going to be as we have these conversations? And you come up with these as a team. One may be, we're not going to get emotionally charged. So in these conversations, we're going to stay calm and not let our tempers get heated. So we're going to stay emotionally calm in these conversations. My meeting, like one of my keys to our meetings and rules of engagement is no meetings after the meeting. So I say to our team, we're not going to have meetings after the meeting. If you have something to say, you say it in the meeting. How often do we have meetings and then afterwards everyone's having meetings about the meeting? Oh, did you hear what so-and-so said?
Yeah.
I can't believe so-and-so did this and said this. All of a sudden you have gossip, you have rumors, and you have a disconnection. You lose unity, you lose morale. So we say no meetings after the meeting. I can't tell you what your rules of engagement are. I guarantee you're already thinking of some. But as you start to think about them and come up with them as a team, you implement them. And now when we have difficult conversations, they make us stronger. They make us better instead of making us weaker and more divided.
Love it. Also, I have so many comments I can make off of the last bit overview, but I'm going to wait because so many things I want to talk to you about. So I know your recent book is Difficult Conversations, which I can't wait to read. Such an important type. One of my favorite books is Crucial Conversations. And what's it called? Dare to something, Brene Brown.
Dare to Lead.
Or the other book. Dare to Lead.
Conversations on vulnerability. And those are all great great books. One difference in ours, and the reason why we felt like there was another book that was needed in
Yeah.
this space, because you don't want to write something if it's not needed.
Yeah. Already
This is
said,
about
yeah.
teams having conversations. A lot of those are about
Okay.
individual conversations. This is about a
Sure.
team coming together and having the conversations as a team. And we have team meetings. You got to bring everyone together and have these kind of conversations.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to read that one. Is that book 30?
That was number 30.
All right. So I know it's not quite a book, and I always tell people that I've only written 2 books, and I'm actually working on the third now. But I actually have something alongside a book. I have something we call the Elite Journal, and this is kind of the box
Nice.
that we produced years ago, which is a journal that kind of goes with our elite execution system. So with that said, knowing I already have a journal, don't sell us too good on why your journal is better, because I'm sure it is here. But I know that's your next project, the Success Journal, coming out. And we were talking briefly beforehand, both for kids and adults, but it sounded really intriguing, kind of how you wrote the journal. Lots of them out there, but it sounds like yours is a pretty cool twist and reason. There's a place for it. So tell us about the Success Journal
Success
coming out.
Journal comes out like June 24th or 25th. And I don't consider it a book, just like you. So I'm not counting it as one of my books. It's just a journal. It's not a book. But it is a cool place to write down your success of the day. That's all it's for.
Yeah.
It's no competition to your journal, Don. It's just a place that you write down your success of the day. We have some quotes throughout the journal, and then space for you to write down my success today is, and you write it down. And what we find is that what we look for, we find. What we focus on shows up more in our lives. And this came about from Bart Connor, 1984 Olympics. He won 2 gold medals. He was being interviewed and he
Okay.
was asked how he did it because he had overcome a bicep tear to do that. And he said, he said, when I went to bed every night, my mom and dad would ask me my success of the day. He said, I went to bed every night a success. He said, I woke up every morning a success. I was a success every single day of my life. When I got injured, I knew I was going to make it back because of that. I've always been a success. I thought, man, what a great idea. So I began doing this with my kids when they were young. And I had them tell me their success of the day. We started writing it down. I didn't have a journal, but we would just write it down in a notebook. And over time, it became our nightly ritual. I started sharing that with audiences and everyone just loved it. And over the years, people have asked me if I had a journal. I'm like, no, I don't have one. And finally, I'm like, all right, I guess I need to make one and
That's
create one.
nice.
Just an easy way for people to do it. And I've seen the power of this in my life. And my dream, my goal is that every kid, when they're done with school, the teacher will ask them at the end of the day, what was your success today? And every kid will leave school feeling like a success. The bus driver will ask them what their success was. So think about these kids going home and going to bed, focusing on their successes, not their failures, not their mistakes, not what they did wrong. It will totally shift their mindset, their perspective, give them confidence to take on this world and allow them to become more resilient. And all the research shows this to be true. And now it's a simple, powerful way for people to do it.
Awesome. So I want to get in a topic you talked about on stage last week. Before I do that, I just want to mention we've covered a lot of ground already. So, 30 books, journal coming out. You come and speak on stage. You're going to be at our stage coming up in November on Legacy and Impact, which I can't wait for. I've got to see you out at some big stages with some really powerful people. You come speak to sports teams. So somebody, before we go to the next topic, is interested in getting a hold of you, talking about you coming to talk to their organization, their team, school, or looking to learn more about you as a coach or your coaching program, all the different things you do. How do they get in touch with you? Before we move
Yeah,
into the
thanks,
next
Tom.
topic.
They can just go to jongordon.com, JON Gordon.com. We have a speaker request right there on the website. You fill that out, and my team will get back to you, and we'll look at the dates, we'll look at the event, and hopefully we can find a way to make it work. If I can't do it, I do have a lot of team members on my team now who
Yeah.
speak and deliver keynotes and workshops for me. We're doing a ton, and a lot of companies and organizations like GE Medical and Southwest Airlines, and you name it, we are working with these teams to help them become more united and connected teams, and also doing a lot of leadership training as well. So just reach out there. And also I do mentorship now. And so at jongordon.com or jongordoncertified.com, I'm doing more mentoring. And I recently decided to do this. I always loved writing and speaking, and I thought that's what I would do forever by itself. But Don, to be honest, I was called to do more. I didn't want to do more, but I've been called to do more. And what I realize is it's to invest in all the people coming up who want to do this work, to invest in the leaders, to pour into leaders like our good friend John Maxwell. And John
Yeah.
has really showed me what that looks like. He's been a great mentor. Ken Blanchard has been a great mentor for
Mm.
me, and the 1 Minute Manager author had a huge impact on me. And I realized,
Yeah.
okay, I'm now going to do this for others, because at the end of the day, my first 50 years has been to build the platform. Now I believe my next 50 is about giving it all away to help others develop them and have that ripple effect, that legacy and impact as you're talking about. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. You are impacting families with your company, families and communities, and having a transformative impact on families and legacies and relationships of what you're doing. And I want to do the same thing just in this world.
Awesome. And then one other quick tool you mentioned me about is JG, as in Jon Gordon, and
Yeah.
jgchecklist.com. Pretty powerful tool that
Yeah,
you
that's
give away.
jgchecklist.com. And that's the 15 things that you must do to create your competitive advantage. So if you just go to JG Checklist, you'll be able to download that checklist. This is what I share with companies, with sports teams. Like, this
Yep.
is the playbook. This is the framework on what I've done with the Rams and the Dodgers
Yep.
and the Miami Heat and Snapchat and Campbell Soup and all the great organizations that I've gotten to work with over the years. This is the checklist that will make great leaders, great teams great. It's about mindset, leadership, and teamwork, all three. And then you have the checklist of how to implement those and put those together. And then what you have the opportunity to do is, if you want to do the checklist, you can do the checklist on your own or reach out to us and we'll help you implement the checklist.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So one of the things you talked about on stage last week was the 5 Ds that divide, that we can break you. And so I'd love you just to kind of give a little overview on what those are. I thought it was pretty powerful. Never heard anybody frame it that way. And if you can incorporate in the sea turtle story, I thought was so cool. It stuck
Yeah.
with me. I thought it was pretty
These
great.
came to me years ago when I was speaking to a company in Chicago. I'm walking around the city, and I kid you not, the 5 Ds just started coming to me, like flowing to me. And I literally started to write them down in my BlackBerry at the time. This is how long ago it was. I started writing these down. And I've had these for a while. I wove them into The Garden, my book, The Garden, and then The One Truth. And these are the 5 Ds
Mm.
that break us psychologically, that break us
Yep.
as teams, and break our relationships. And those Ds are doubt. So often it starts with a seed of doubt and it grows into a forest of uncertainty. And so it begins with doubt in our mind that creates clutter and a lot of overthinking. As I shared at the event, overthinking is always associated with negative thoughts. We never say I have too many positive thoughts. That second D is distortion. Those negative thoughts are distortions of the truth. Negative thoughts are lies that will tell you things about yourself and your future that just aren't true. And so we have to be wary of those negative thoughts. So many times we believe them and we reinforce
Yep.
them. We feel guilt and shame for having them. And then we beat ourselves up. So we feel broken. We feel like something's wrong, like we need to be fixed. And this is really important for kids too. A lot of kids are going through this. So I'm teaching people, no, nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken.
Yeah.
You have the answers on what's going on. And I'm going to armor you with how to win and defeat those negative thoughts that are initially not coming from you. They're lies. That we are not the thoughts we think, we are the thoughts that we believe. And this is really important. So those distortions are key. You have to be wary of them. And then there's the discouragement that sits in from those negative thoughts. So we have the doubt. We have these negative thoughts, and then we get discouraged. And we don't give up because it's hard. We give up because the weight of discouragement feels so heavy. It's like sitting on our chest, and we just want to give up. And that happens to so many people, so many teams, so many organizations. I say, have you ever been on a team that has gotten discouraged and then got defeated? And everyone's like, yes, I've been there. So we know what that's like individually and also collectively. Discouragement sets in. Fourthly is distraction. Maybe you're not discouraged. Maybe you don't have a ton of negative thoughts, but you might have a lot of distracted thoughts. And distractions are the enemy of greatness. And this is where I talked about sea turtles. And I just love the story because I live in Northeast Florida where you live as well. And sea turtles come on shore in May to August. And you might even see some right now where they have some barriers around
yeah.
the eggs where they lay their eggs during that time. And then several months later, those eggs hatch. And those sea turtles, those little hatchlings, those little sea turtles move towards the water. They move towards the pure light of the moon. This is what they're meant to follow, towards the ocean. they're actually meant to follow the brightest light at the ocean, which is usually the moon. But in some cases,
Sure.
they have high rises and condominiums and big restaurants, and you have these bright lights. And too often, these sea turtles, when they hatch, will go towards the bright lights. They go towards
Yeah.
the distraction. They go towards their ultimate destruction because they're not meant to go in that direction. And so often, our distractions will lead to our destruction if we allow them to. And they seem appealing, like they seem like they're great. They seem like they're shiny, and sometimes they seem like they're harmless. But so often they lead us astray. You're meant to follow your path, your destiny, and your purpose. And that's the pure light of the moon. And that's what you're made for. Success is the fulfillment of God's plan for your life. And any distraction
Love it.
will keep you from that if you let it. So be wary of that fourth D, even though it might seem harmless. And then that fifth D, this is where it all makes sense, is divide. And these four Ds will lead to division. And this makes even more sense when you know that the root for the Greek word of anxious means to separate and divide. So if we look at the world today, we see a lot of anxiety. We see a lot of separation.
Oh, yeah.
We see a lot of division. We see a lot of families broken. We see a lot of communities broken. We see a big political divide going on. And everyone's fighting instead of uniting and joining together. And so division is real and it's setting in. And the path is overcoming these 5 Ds to recognize what they bring about. They bring about poor mental health because the more disconnected we feel, the more isolated we feel, the more depressed we will feel. So they bring about poor mental health. Negative thoughts will lead to more disconnection and division. Fear divides. So it's recognizing that it also leads to division within our teams, our families, our companies. So if I'm a leader, which I am, but if I'm you leading your company, for instance, or any leader listening, I'm looking out for the division and where it's taken place, and I'm looking for ways to bring unity and connection, and I'm using those 4 C's of communication, connection, commitment, and caring. And I'm using difficult conversations, and we're finding ways to build trust and cohesiveness so negativity and division cannot set in. The more I keep a team united and whole, and we experience oneness, the more powerful we'll be. The more we allow division to set in, the weaker we'll be. So I'm making sure this doesn't address me individually and also on my team.
Awesome. So you speak to teenagers and high schools. You speak to young college athletes. Speak to professional athletes. All young people, right? I mean, these are. I know you deal with seasoned leaders and coaches, but you deal with a lot of young people. And so I was curious, what excites you most today when you get to meet these young people, want to change the world, who have big ambitions, goals. What gets you excited meeting and working with these young people, these young teams? What motivates you? What you see in
Yeah,
the world today?
at your event, I was sharing how it's interesting how these leaders of companies who I work with will ask me to speak to their kids. And then I'll start talking to their
Yeah.
kids and I hear what they're going through. I hear their challenges, but I also hear their optimism and their hope. And then occasionally I'll Zoom with a high school football team. And I still speak to a lot of colleges, work with Texas
Yeah.
Longhorns. I'm going to Clemson again this year and work with Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team and all different teams I'll speak to. And so I'm in touch still with the younger people. And people have said, like, what's cool about my books is they could be read by 8-year-olds and also 80-year-olds and CEOs,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So families could actually read them together. And I've had CEOs say, "Hey man, my 10-year-old brought your book home to me and I read it and now I'm using it for my company." But what excites me most is that. Like what excites me most is that everybody's getting these principles. I helped a friend's son who was in 8th grade and he was really struggling with those negative thoughts coming in. And we had a call on the phone and I taught him high state of mind, low state of mind. I taught him the 5 Ds, how to overcome them. This kid now is in 10th grade getting recruited by a lot of big time college football programs. He could have went the other way. Like he could have become a mental wreck because he was dealing with some struggles at that time. But to show him the path
Yeah.
forward and as I was speaking to this kid, I could see the light bulb go off. And even in 8th grade, he got it. And now to see what he's becoming is awesome. So that's what energizes me most. When I share this and I teach this and I teach these ideas, to see the light bulb go on, to see them get it, to see the shift mentally, to see them feeling more hope, to realize there's nothing wrong with them. They're not broken. They're just in a battle. And I'm giving them the tools to win the battle. What's exciting is seeing them go into battle and then have success. So my greatest reward is getting to see the success and the rewards of others. I even told like all my trainers who are getting certified now, I said, the measure of my success is not me. I've written enough books. I've sold enough books. I feel really good about what I've accomplished. If I die tomorrow, I feel good about what I've accomplished. My measure will be what I do in impacting you and unleashing you to go out into this world and making a difference. So that's what's driving me now. That's what I'm excited about now. And seeing these smart young people, like they are sharp. You see it, like your kids, they were in my session,
Right.
and you can just tell, man, they're smart. Like they get it already, as young as they are, they get it. And then you realize, okay, what are these kids gonna create in the future? What work are they gonna do? What impact are they gonna have? And I think they're gonna be better than we think. Like we think, oh, our kids today, they're on the video games too much, or they're doing this. No, these kids are gonna be smarter, sharper, and do more than we ever did. So I truly believe the best is yet to come.
Awesome. Well, really quick questions. I'm gonna wrap up with one last one you kind of hit on already. So I know this is a tough question. I'm gonna put you on the spot to give me a quick answer for it. 30 books written. Which
Oh,
one's your
easy.
favorite?
Training Camp. What the best
Training
do
Camp. All
better
right.
than everyone else. Did you read that one?
I
Okay.
have,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
that's
I
my
read it after we talked about it
my
last year.
favorite.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So outside of the 30 books you've written, what's your favorite book, most impactful book you've ever
Wow.
read?
There's a couple. A Million Miles in a Thousand Years by Donald Miller. I just love that book.
Okay.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I was working at a .com and had been a previous restaurant bar owner. And I remember thinking, here I am now working for someone instead of being my own boss. I've got to get back to being my own boss again and generating wealth instead of just working for an income. That literally changed the trajectory of my life. So Rich Dad Poor Dad, I would say, was huge for me. And I love Soul Keeping by John Ortberg. Soul Keeping, unbelievable,
Right. These
insightful,
down.
and just brilliant book that he wrote on the soul.
All right. So I tried to hold you to one, but I love three recommendations. I have not read. I've only read one
Can't
of
just
those
pick
three
one.
books. So
Can't
I'm
just pick
excited
one.
about that. Yeah. All right, awesome. So you kind of hit on this a little bit already. So to wrap us up here, you've accomplished a lot. You've impacted tons of lives, many lives you've impacted, people that names that many of us know, and obviously with the millions of books you publish, you've been able to impact a lot of lives and people you'll probably never meet and never hear from and never know. So you've done a lot. But as you look ahead and you say, when it's all said and done, and whether that's you said tomorrow or 50 years from now. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered as? What do you expect to leave here in your time, short
I
time on
always
this
joke
earth?
that I want a great funeral. I won't be able to enjoy it, but I want
Yeah.
a great funeral. And that will mean that I want someone to come up to my kids and say something your dad read. I mean, writ, sorry, something your dad wrote and a talk he gave. I was in his talk or I read his book and it really impacted my life in a meaningful way. Or he took the time to talk to me and help me through a challenging time. Whether it's a book, whether it's a public talk or a private conversation, I just want people to say that I made a difference in their life. So that's the only legacy I want to leave besides obviously my wife and my two kids, knowing that I invested in them and I poured into them. Commitment recognizes commitment. And this is something I'm going to talk about in November. I'm going to talk about leaving a legacy and leaving a life of impact. And I'm not going to give it all away, but I want to just tease it right now. I'm going to talk about the fact that my mom's maiden name is Gordon. My last name is Gordon. I'm going to share why my name is Gordon and how that carries on a legacy and how my biological father's name ended with him. He had two sons and his name ended with him and how that happened as well. And once you understand this story, you're going to realize the importance of being committed and how commitment recognizes commitment and how we will carry on that legacy going forward. So to me, that means everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you. The great Jon Gordon here with us. Go to jongordon.com to learn more. Check out his tools, jgchecklist.com. Book him for your next event. Come talk to your leadership team or your organization, or come join us in November at our event on legacy and impact and hear the talk. I can't wait to hear it. Jon just talked about. So grateful to have you here with us today. Anything you'd like to wrap us up or leave us
Not just
with?
thanks, Don. Just keep on doing the amazing work you're doing. Your event was incredible. Your heart for just building strong companies, strong people, strong leaders, and strong families. And thanks for writing your book. I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait to finish it.
Awesome. Thank you, John.